If all you're doing is reacting as opposed to considering why something has happened, how you feel about it, and putting some space, it doesn't need to be long, between the event happening, 13% fall in one day in markets or whatever, between that event happening and you doing something about it, if you can only find the space to take a breath for like half an hour while you think this stuff through, and very often it's enough to sort of bring your higher order thinking into play and be able to say, what do I know about this? I know that markets go down 1 in 4 years, calendar years. And so this might be one of them. I know that markets fall by 10 or 15% every year, intra-year. So this is probably just one of those things. I know that for decades, global equities have, built wealth, investing in the great companies of the world, all the stuff we talk about all the time. I know this. But I used to have 25 grand in my ISA, and now it's showing 20. And that's really annoying because I've worked hard to build that money. And so, we need to think, right, okay, have I lost anything? Very often I'll say to people, look, you're sitting in a house, right? You paid 250 grand for it, right? You've done a bit of work on it. You kind of hope it's worth 300. You've got a mate who's an estate agent, and he comes around and says, you ask him, what's it worth? Right, I bought for 250. I've done a bit of work. You're hoping it's worth 300, but your mate, who's an estate agent, comes and says, "Well, unfortunately, there's a crack den that's just opened up behind, and there's a bit of subsidence in the area. So actually, houses like this are only going for about 220 now." So you think, "Well, crap. I've bought a house. It's worth less than I bought it for. At that point in time, have you lost anything?" And the answer is no, because you haven't sold it yet. It's still a house. You still own as much house as you used to do. And if markets fall, you still own probably the same number of shares, the same number of units in a fund or whatever than you did before. They're just worth slightly less. But that decline is temporary. And if we can only just find that slot of time to remember that stuff, we might just push back. And that is all the difference it makes. It needs to make to stop you making an unwise decision and bailing out early. It's repetition, it's experience. It's listening to people like you guys and me, hopefully, over the longer term.
Yeah. I hope that people go through it early in their investing journey, because I think the most damaging thing is to kind of be miss it all, and then just before retirement you see a crash and you make a rash decision. I think you kind of got to get punched in the face once, haven't you, to know what it feels like.
I agree. Early the better. I mean, there's people who sort of got started in 2009. So, now this glorious rise for how long.
And then COVID, and they...
Yeah, sure. Which, I mean, was... hopefully a once in a century event. But I mean, that was the sharpest and steepest market decline I've ever known.
But then one of the quickest recoveries.
Exactly,
and
right.
You could easily miss it. You could. Because it was so quick. It was over. It was end to end like a month or two, wasn't it?
Ridiculous. Yeah. And whereas, I've walked with clients through 2007, 8, 9. March 2009, people forget there were still headlines in the newspapers saying there's 50% left to go, drops. From March 2009, markets were already down 40, 45, 50%. It's going to drop another 50%. So we're talking 3/4 of your wealth wiped out potentially. But of course, that ended up being the lowest point, which tells you should be very careful who you listen to. Yeah. Which I think is a key part of helping ourselves behave well, is guard our intake. I mean, it's never been worse than it is right now. Mm-hmm. But if you held your nerve in March 2009 and you didn't bail out and cut your losses, then you did very well.
This is a clip from our chat with Pete Matthew, the godfather of this YouTube finance game, also Damien's dad.
Pappy.
El Jefe.
To
click here for the full episode.